Hey YouTube, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles, and thank God you did not hear the conversation off camera. Definitely not PC. But anyway, we're here to share some things with you about if you're going to start breeding snakes, how to never, ever, ever make it normal. Before we do that, go ahead and click like, click subscribe, go on to the Patreon, check it out, join that for the community. The community is awesome. But if you're going to begin breeding, you'll find that normals are a byproduct. I've gotten in trouble for saying it before. I had a few people get all kinds of mad at me and pissed off. Listen, when we say normals are a byproduct, that doesn't mean they're bad. But if you're breeding and your goal is to make normals, you're kind of doing it wrong. Your goal should be to make as few normals as possible. Sometimes it's going to happen when you breed, but there are ways that you can prevent it or drastically reduce it. So we're going to kind of tell you some of those things that you can do to make sure that you're not going to be saddled with a bunch of normals. Because if 1 out of every 4 of the babies you produce is a normal, you're not going to likely have as good of a time in your breeding as you would otherwise. Is that fair to say, you think?
Agreed.
Agreed. So what do we want to work on first, Caleb? What do you think? What is the first way you'd recommend to never make a normal? The simplest way about it.
Simplest way or the first way I recommend?
Simplest way.
Simplest way would be a super.
A super. So like this super Mojave right here, right?
Yeah.
Come on, girl. You want to be in a good mood for me? Oh, yeah. So this is a super Mojave. And what that basically means is, for those who are new, because again, we're going to kind of do this video, whether you're new or long-term, we're going to make it where new people can definitely understand. We're not going to try to be over the head. So this is day 1 for you into reptile genetics. When we say a super, what that really means is it's a homozygous version of an incomplete dominant gene. So Mojave being an incomplete dominant gene, really what that means, guys, is a Mojave is actually heterozygous Mojave. And somebody's going to go in the comments and say, no, that's recessive. No, bullshit. You're heterozygous and homozygous, whether it's recessive or not. That is how science works. Mm-hmm. So this would be a homozygous Mojave, which we tend to call super Mojave in this industry. That's the industry term for it. Is super, kind of dumb, is what it is. It's been around a long time. We're going to live with it. So when you breed this animal, no matter what it passes on, it's going to have to pass on Mojave. Now, the bad thing about a homozygous Mojave, and there's plenty of these out there, whether it's super pastel, super Mojave, super inchy, super yellow belly, pick one. What am I missing? Super banana, super mahogany.
Everything has a
everything
super.
Has
except
a super.
For recessives.
Well, they do. They're homozygous.
Well, yes,
it's still a heterozygous homozygous.
In their name, everything has a super.
Yes.
Yes.
I personally think it's easier to think of it as homozygous and heterozygous than normal and super, because then you'll make you understand your recessive genetics so much more. So when you have the homozygous form, right, that means when you breed this snake, it has to pass on that copy of the morph genetic. It absolutely 100% has to do it. It cannot do anything else. The bad thing is this snake can never replicate itself. As it's passing that DNA strain, it can never pass on 2 copies of Mojave. So when you breed a homozygous Mojave, it will make all heterozygous Mojaves. It cannot make a homozygous Mojave on its own unless the other parent is also Mojave, okay? It has to get 1 copy from each parent to be homozygous. It will guarantee, this being a female in this case, that every baby gets a copy of Mojave from the female because this female is homozygous. Has to pass it on. Has absolutely no choice. No choice. Has to pass it on. Anything we're missing there? Nope. So homozygous Mojave. So any super is a homozygous. Come here, you. Put you back. What would be the next simplest way?
Oh, you're in shed. But Allelic.
Oh, of course we have one in the shed. So this is an Allelic combo. We picked this one on purpose, even though it's in shed. What Allelic means, you also hear this, some old people will call this acts like a super. Because I think they did that to make it easier for people to understand. You're going to run around, let's pick you up. How about that? So when we say it's an Allelic combo, this snake has 2 different morph genetics that will be on the same spot in the DNA. So it's going to act like a homozygous animal. It is carrying a copy of, in this case, Mojave and Mystic. So it makes a Mystic potion. So it has to pass on either that Mojave or that Mystic. It can't do anything else. It cannot make itself, right? It cannot do that. But it will pass on 1 morph genetic. Those genes being a part of the same complex. We just talk about complexes. In this case, it's part of the Bell complex. which contains lesser butter, same thing, Mojave, Mystic. Mystic is also the same as
Phantom.
I think it is. You're right.
Yeah, there's
specials in there.
and
Russo, Bamboo. Yeah, there's a couple
I feel
others.
like we're missing one
Huffman.
or two. Is it?
Huffman's in there, yeah.
Yeah, Het Daddy.
Het
That's
Daddy.
in there.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that is in this complex that makes these. So the cool thing is, you'll get, told you if you breed that Super Mojave to a normal, you're going to get all Mojaves. If you breed this to a normal, you're going to get Mojaves and Mystics. Good luck telling them apart when they're babies. But that's what you're going to get. You're going to get 2 different snakes. So that is kind of cool. There's a lot of these Allelic combos out there. We even have it similar in some recessives, which we'll share with you here in a minute. But you will pass on both genes. One cool thing is I can take this snake, which is actually what we're doing this year, and breed it to that snake. And if it goes, what that means, everybody gets Mojave here, everybody gets Mystic or Mojave there. So all we'll make then is Super Mojaves and Mystic Potions. Can't do anything else, right? So in effect, using one of these will prevent a normal. By breeding a super to a super, we are guaranteeing ourselves Allelic combos across the board. So there are things that you can do to control your breeding. Why is this important? Because this is a pretty simple pairing, right? But the difference is we're not going to make any $20 snakes. Everything's going to be, $300 snake. That does make it a lot better, right? That's a nice, good animal to take to a show. You're going to be able to move it. You're going to be able to sell it pretty routinely. They look really cool. These things are, he wants to get some now. Look at that tail going. He's saying, hey ladies, look at my ass. That's literally what he's doing. So he's a pretty cool animal. So anyway, that's kind of how these work. So they work the same as that homozygous Mojave. It's just they're part of an allelic complex. So it's going to act like that, but it's going to pass on Mystic or Mojave. Correct? Mm-hmm. What's the next one that you would recommend? Easy.
Recessive.
Recessive. And then we'll get into the hard. I got the recessive over here, don't I?
Yes.
So we're going to show off this girl today. This is my favorite recessive gene. So it's got a couple things going on in it. So this is an axanthic. It's also a pastel and a spider. So it's an example. They call it zebra bee if you're going to use a combo name. But again, we've talked about how those combo names are kind of dumb, and it's easier if we break it down, right? So this is an axanthic pastel spider. So that's what we got going on here, female. So when you breed her, now she could actually, if we bred her to a normal, she would possibly make snakes that look like a normal. Because what we really have, heterozygous pastel, heterozygous spider, homozygous axanthic. So she is going to pass axanthic on to every single baby, but it may not show. They'll all be heterozygous axanthic. 100%, no doubt, it cannot miss. And when you hear people put percentages on recessives, like, oh, it's 50% het or whatever, which you don't hear as much anymore, because if it's something worthwhile, you can genetic test that possible het, and probably should, to be blunt. That's the time where genetic testing actually makes a lot of sense to me. I don't need to genetic test this animal. I can fucking look at it. That's what it is. But, and I don't need to genetic test its offspring. I know what it is based on what this animal is. But if you were working with a possible het where people say it's 50% het, that doesn't mean it's het part of the time, and the rest of the time it's not. That means that snake has a 50% chance of being heterozygous for that gene. It's not going to come and go. Once it's proven het, it's just a het. I've seen people say it's a 50% het that's proven. Then no, it's just a het. You don't have a 50% het that's proven. Cannot exist. A het's a het, or it's not. Once it's proven one or the other, you can drop the percentages. The percentages are just for sales, for possibilities. But every baby from this would be at least a het. Of course, we'd have some other genes to pass on in this situation. We'll talk about that next. Now, breeding hets, I wouldn't purposely make a whole bunch of single gene hets. This is not an animal I would ever put to a normal. If I was going to use this to make hets, it's because I'm probably wanting to work on a double recessive project, and I'm probably throwing another animal to this that is also a visual recessive to make my double hets. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But definitely good to throw to, like, if you have something was het axanthic and you put this to it, you're going to have all hets and 50% will be visual. If you put this to a normal, you will get no visual axanthics, because the way the recessive works, it's just like that homozygous Super Mojave, right? Homozygous axanthic. It's going to pass one copy on to every offspring, but only one. If you can't get on the other side, you won't get the homozygous. The only difference in an incomplete dominant and a recessive, when we're talking about this, is the visual expression. An incomplete dominant, there's a visual expression by itself and a separate expression when it's homozygous. When it's recessive, the heterozygous does not visually express at all. The homozygous does. People will talk about markers. If it's truly that the marker is that identifiable, like you talk about tracks on pieds, can be a good indicator. But if every heterozygous pied had 2 tracks running down perfectly from the vent back, and that was consistent in every single one, then that would really not be a recessive. It would be a heterozygous that you can visually identify and a homozygous, right? But you can't always tell by that. There are some things that kind of show up, but it's not 100% guarantee. So in this case, definitely both going to be that. You're getting thick, girl. Hopefully you're going to take some, hopefully you're going to ovulate for me soon. That'd be awesome. Put her back. You want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
So this one is where we're getting a little bit kind of crazy. Okay. So first of all, what are we looking at here? This is a little female we've been growing up for a while. This girl here is a pastel lesser cryptic or krypton. Sorry. 100% het desert ghost. So there's a lot going on in here. Okay. This will again, heterozygous desert ghost, not visually expressed. We know it's there. We produce this animal. So homozygous for nothing, actually. However, those 2 recessives, which would be cryptic and clown, it is really a triple heterozygous. It's het for clown, het for cryptic, it's het for desert ghost. But the clown and the krypton, they are on the same area, so they visually express together. This snake will pass on either cryptic or clown. Just like we talked about with the Mystic Potion. It's going to pass on Mojave or Mystic. This will do the same thing with cryptic or clown. You won't know because you won't be able to see it unless the parent passes that on as well. But it has to pass on one of those 2. Those are going to act like a homozygous combo. The desert ghost, if it passes on, you won't know unless you see it. And then, of course, the pastel and lesser that are in there are going to help move things around too. Here's the thing. We talked about some shed testing back in the day. This is an animal, depending on what I'm doing, this would be an animal whose offspring I would actually recommend shed testing. Because if we were to breed this and we were to make some things for projects down the road, I'm going to want to know, is it clown or is it cryptic? And do they catch the desert ghost? This is an example where shed testing makes absolute perfect sense. Not on this animal. I know what the fuck's here. But the offspring, we wouldn't necessarily know what was there. So that's when we talk about if you're working a project. I know we had that big long debate. This is what we talk about. If you're working a project where shed testing can help your project, so you're not having to play the old guessing game. That's money well spent to not have to play the guessing game on is the desert ghost. Because maybe I want the cryptic and the desert ghost. I don't give a fuck about the clown. Well, I either have to hold back everything and hope like hell, or I test a few of them and pick the one I want and sell the rest. And then I'm not selling possibles either. I know exactly what's in each one. So that would be where it would be beneficial because you know people are gonna the difference between a het clown and a het krypton. I don't know what it is now, but it used to be or cryptic, I should say. It used to be significant. You know, it's not as significant as it once was because the kryptons and cryptics have gotten more common over the years. You know, so anyway, really cool little snake there. Any questions about that one, Kurt? This is where it gets a little confusing. Mm-hmm. But you'll never make a normal here. You'll never make it. You just may not know what you've made. If I bred this to a normal, could I hit a snake that looks like a normal? Could. But it will be het cryptic or het clown. One of the 2. Has to be. No other way around it. That's just the way genetics work. Okay, I'll throw that one back. Then we got one more way to show you. This is not a guaranteed way to not make a normal, but this is a way to greatly reduce your odds of making a normal. So we'll pull this one out here. Come here, you. So this snake here is, it's just got a lot of genes in it, right? So this is a banana, it's 1. Blitz, 2. Black pastel, 3. Calico, 4. Female. So if we took that animal, let's say, and we threw, you know what? Would be a good male to make this example. We didn't pick that very well.
Yeah, we can pick.
Yeah, it can't have the super is the problem. It can't have a recessive. So we're kind of struggling on picking a really good one. You know what? We'll just use that spot nose pastel. Yeah. He's out doing something. You don't even want to do the same. But if we put a spot nose pastel to this too, then that would mean that there's 6 incomplete dominant genes at play. Okay? So now the odds get really long, because if you have one gene at play, it's 1 in 2. 2 genes at play, it's 1 in 4. That includes making a normal, okay? If I bred just a pastel to a normal, half the baby should be pastel, half the baby should be normal. It's a 1 in 2 odds. It's actually not half. Every single egg is its own individual coin flip or dice roll, but this is a 2-sided dice in that chance. When you add in another gene, so you have 2 incomplete dominant genes in there, it goes from 1 in 2 to 1 in 4. Add in the third, it goes to 1 in 8. Add in the fourth, 1 in 16. Add in the fifth, 1 in 32. Add in the sixth, 1 in 64. So when you breed this to just a simple 2-gene combo, your odds of making it normal go down to 1 in 64. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Your odds of making a normal are just as good as your odds of hitting the 6-gene combo, okay? Same odds, same exact odds. But it's unlikely that you're going to make that many normals doing that. So you can also just really decrease your odds of making normals by just having a lot of genes at play. However, there's some side effects to that I don't necessarily like. I personally think when you get much more into some of these, it starts just muddying up the water so much it's hard to tell what's in there. They don't start to look better, which is always, for me, if I'm not improving the way the animal looks, why the fuck am I doing it? That's kind of my attitude. This thing looks cool as hell. Can we improve it though? I think we actually could this. I think this could be improved. Even with all the genes, you could throw in a fifth, like Sentinel, and this would look awesome. Black Pastel already in there, so it won't make it awesome. Suma Mojave would make this, or not Mojave, Mahogany, another darkening gene I think would really turn this up a notch, you know, so something to offset the contrast more maybe even, although it's held its contrast pretty well. So it's even getting like a whitish as it ages. I love how it's darker there and lighter here. Weird fucking snake. That's kind of the calico at play with everything, though, I think, causing that. So, anything that you want to add to this?
Nope.
Did I miss anything on this?
Nope.
Anything I didn't cover or explain well? Which one has better odds of making a normal? Breeding this 4-gene snake to, say, another 5-gene male and having 9 genes at play that are all incomplete dominant, or breeding that Mystic Potion?
I mean, that one.
Technically, because the Mystic Potion never, ever will.
Yeah.
Still 1 in 64. If you had 9, that's like 101 in a, 240 something or some shit. But you get my drift. There's still a chance that Mystic Potion will never make a normal for you. Neither will any super out there. So the point I want to make to you is, as you're building your collection, what I would really recommend is if I could do everything all over again today and start building my collection, not from, oh, this is pretty from Island Breeding, I would want every male I purchase, every single one, to be either A, a recessive, or B, a super only. Wouldn't fuck with anything else, or an allelic combo. The reason being is it would prevent any normals from ever being made. So if your males are all that, then it doesn't really matter on your females, right? Because you can have whatever female and they'll still never make a normal. So that's what I would do if I could do things all over again, you know, knowing what I know now. But that's just me, because normals, yeah, they eat the same, they take up the same, you know, but they're not that much fun to deal with from a breeding standpoint. They're the same exact snake. If you have it normal, I'm not knocking it. If it's your pet and you love that thing, that's awesome. You know, enjoy it. Other than the skin color, it's no different than this thing here. Literally the same damn snake when you strip everything away. So there's nothing wrong with them, but trying to pay the bills and keep the lights on, I'm not going to do that if I make 300 babies and 150 of them are normals. It's just going to make it very difficult. Where if I make 300 babies, only 5 of them are normals, well, better off, right? So Kurt, anything you want to add?
Nope.
Caleb, anything you want to add?
Nope.
All right, guys, we've just given you a recipe to never make a normal, or to make one only once in a blue fucking moon. So use it how you will, and enjoy. We'll catch y'all next time.